What's up, y'all? What is up? Quick early bird. Quick early bird. Get this screenshot. Okay. Usually don't do that on the during the during the live. You just kind of wait towards afterwards, but I think it's important because let me see. Let me make sure I check something. Um. Oops. Let me update this. Gotta click this out. So, guys, it's a good update. From yesterday to today, which is a good thing. And as I always say, we celebrate everything. The good thing that we are going to celebrate is we're changing this. Let's change this. I have to change the subscriber count from 8. Oops, not 89. We was gonna get there one day. But we have reached 9 subscribers. This big. We reached 9 subscribers on YouTube. That is big. Like I said, from yesterday, which was not even a full 12 hours, we reached we gained another subscriber. That sees something, obviously, in the message that I send. Somebody sees some value in it. So I do thank you for whoever subscribed. And as always, it's a good day. This is Sweet Tea. So I woke up early. It's gonna be a pretty quick one. Obviously today, like I said, tomorrow are gonna be just really focused days on getting everything ready to move, and that's just my main focus right now. I just can't wait, and we're just doing things that's gonna just change. I want to just talk about I was waking up trying to think of some sort of message that I wanted to, I guess, talk about, and this was on my mind as I was just getting up, and just, I think I said this last stream, but the last 7 months, I really kind of, little by little, started distancing myself from just, not only just friends, but just like everybody that I just genuinely, I know some friends are just, they're still cool people and all that, but like, I think success at some success at some point requires a certain time of isolation. Um, Let me say that one more time. Success is, at a certain point, requires a certain amount of time of isolation. Okay? And the reason I say that is because when there's a moment in time in life where it's like there has to be a level of focus, and friends are great sometimes, they can be your safe space, but sometimes they can be a real distraction even if they are good friends. And I realize, like, you know um that when you want to really get somewhere, there has to be this a level of laser focus that you have to be, that nobody nowhere else matters. And for me, it started not exactly at the beginning of the year, but definitely like as the months went on. And May was that year, May was that month that it really got to a point where it's like true isolation. And I was isolated for, still continuing, for 3 months, like true isolation, where like cut off everybody. 3 months. um, and it was important. I learned a lot about myself, um, things that I didn't I thought I will always have to depend on. And I I gained an even deeper independence in that space, where it's, before that, I would sometimes call my friends for things that I would be going through and leaning on. And like that period of time had gained a even bigger independence for myself that I didn't even think I had. And that should always be like the lesson for anybody that is trying to get somewhere. Separate yourself. And that literally means like distance yourself when there's a moment in time that you want to become more, focused on your craft. Like, you don't have to be in everybody's face every day, um, especially when you want to do something that not too many people do, or not too many have accomplished. Um, it just demands so much of your time. Um, and the reason I just say that is because it's like people aren't willing to sacrifice things. Like, sacrifice is so important, and I don't mean the Illuminati, or I don't mean like, you know, blood, all that crazy stuff. Um, I just mean, you know, what things are you willing to give to gain? And, I'm willing to put the time in, you know, without the guarantee of an outcome, but the possibility of an outcome. Like, that's the key distinction. Like, and you might have to rewind that back to really hear what I said. You know, um, people always think that working hard guarantees success, and it doesn't. There have been so many people that probably put up 50,000 more shots than Steph Curry, but it's what Steph Curry done. It's his approach. It's the mental mindset, you know? Um, and it's the study behind learning how to shoot the jump shot. Um, so it's more than just hard work, right? We got to eliminate this stigma of hard work is, you know, it definitely positions you more than anybody that does nothing. Don't get me wrong, okay? But the big thing is there's this a level of separation, you know, that is it's supposed to be like built in. It's like a, you know, it's supposed to be like a mental separation where, you know, you're obsessed with the craft that you're trying to jump into, and what you're trying to build. Like, not just, oh, I'm just gonna work hard. You know, it's a lot of people that just put their head down, and, you know, and a lot of people become successful, but that's why I say, like, when you become, when you can create a spiritual and mental balance of intent and effort and instinct and hunger and obsession and all of these things, when you can mix that whole formula up, you create a monster. You know, you create a beast. But a lot of people think that it's just, oh, just work hard, and I promise you, it's a great thing to have, to just be the super hard worker. But when you're the super hard worker, the mental isn't there, you know, because you're just always thinking about just doing the work. It's not that. It's refining what you're trying to do. It's paying attention. It's being observant of, dang, I am doing this, but there's something else that I need to adjust and align. It's not just about working hard. And I think we get so caught up in all of the small things, you know. We gotta get into the intricates, you know. And you know, you gotta study the greats. You know, you gotta study the minds of people, of people that done it, and um, you know, like it's incredible to listen to the interviews of the Michael Jackson and the Michael Jordans and Whitney Houston's, and you know, there is a level of class, there's a level of hunger, there's a level of obsession, you know, there's a level of eccentric, you know, uh, and that's what I think is like one of the formulas. Like, you got to be almost to the point where it's like people see you as like, man, this dude's crazy. You know, they always say it's a thin line between genius and insanity, and you got to do things that just might push the needle. You know, sometimes you might get to the point where, man, I'm doing too much. You, you know, you gotta know when you are overboard or you're doing too much. You gotta know when you're doing too much. You know, but it's not a bad thing to push that line, and know when you're overboard or when you're underperforming. So we're all learning humans, you know, just living this life, and you know, I've met, you know, celebrities. Um, um, not gonna go into like the celebrities I've met, but um, I've met people that were at that level. I will tell you, like, um, there was a big fashion designer. I have the video. Um, but I met Kenneth Cole. Uh, and it was, you know, when for a person, that's into fashion and understands and, just understands the importance of certain people that pave ways for other designers. It was important to step out my way and shake his hand, and to just, I think the most important thing for me is like, it's not a matter of like, people get in the space of people that are important and have accomplished things, and they want a handout. And it's like, sometimes you want to just be in the space of people that's done great things to make you realize that you're no different. I've been in the space of very accomplished people, and I realized I'm no different than them, that I'm capable, And I think because when you live your whole life looking at these people that are just, it looks like they're larger than life when they're on these platforms, but when you get in the face and you look at them face to face, and it's like, this person's no different than me, They may have done things to put themselves at a certain level, but they're no different. And that was like the big distinction in just meeting more than not just Kenneth Cole, but just like just meeting people that are very respected in their fields. And that was just like a big lesson that that I was just taught, being in the space of just, people that are accomplished, that they're no different. I just like, when people underestimate me as well. I've had so many ups and downs in my life. Even now, like, I've experienced, a lot of things, like, and I can admit, like, growing up, I was very lazy. I had a lot of things. I wasn't born, broke, or I had a very middle class, lifestyle. So, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I don't want people to, oh, well, I was like, nah, like, and I think that's one of the hardest things when you grow up in a 2-parent household with everything that you had. You had a dad in your life, you have a present father, you have, a family with parents that are in the same household, that are actually still together to this day. Like, it's a level of, you live a level of guilt, when you see everybody else don't have fathers in their household, or their parents separated, and it's like, oh, dang. But you also are grateful, because I could have easily not had that, like, I could have been just an inch away from not having that. And I'm extremely grateful, but it made me very lazy. It made me, because I had everything, I didn't, there wasn't Christmases where, obviously there was some Christmas where I didn't get certain things, but that was more later, but there was a happy and loving household where we were all together. We weren't lovey-dovey and all those things, but it was a togetherness, and that's like the most important thing when it comes to like growing up, middle class. But there's also like this pressure, because it's like, you have everything, why aren't you, but I think one thing I can't take from it is like sometimes it makes you very content with life, and it starts to create this bubble that you don't have to work hard, or you just don't see the reality, the harsh realities that everybody face, you know, when you grow up with everything, you know. That's why I can understand people that are privileged. I'm not saying I was fully privileged, but I had things and I didn't, you know, go hungry, you know. But I didn't live a, like I said, I didn't live a rich life, but I had things that I wanted, you know. But it made me very lazy. And I could be the first person to admit that. I could be first. But I think what helped me overcome and make me become just even more hardworking was um, just the underdog mentality of just people that see you for you and don't think you can evolve, you know? And it's the challenge that I take on every single day, you know? And that's why it's so important to just keep fighting, you know? Like, there's people that, like I said, didn't have the same childhood that I had, but, you know, they still made a way. Like, and that's the biggest battle is like, you know, you had everything, you know, and you still gotta be a person that is competing in this real world. And it's just it's a battle that everybody has to take on, you know. But I always say everybody's story is different, but how can you build your story, you know? I say a lot of the my ability to have such intellect and such, you know, interesting perspectives was because I've had tastes of realities. I've had harsh reality checks, and um, you know, I accepted it, and you know, I became more humble because of it. And but I think what allowed me to have it was, like I said, I had having a present father in my life, you know, that allowed for so many things to allow me to become better. You know, I didn't have to, you know, have those things that a lot of other young black kids, you know, they get distracted by. It's like they ain't gotta I have a dad, or you know, or all these things. And you know, as you're trying to reach new levels, you have those things that are holding you back, you know. um I'm very blessed and grateful to not have that. And sometimes it's a guilty feeling as well, because being black with a dad and with married parents still to this day is rare. um and and that's why, like, I pray every day and grateful for what I have, because it's not a common thing. And you know, I take that with a grain of salt, because understanding that when your life isn't common, you know, then that demands an even bigger uncommonality of working hard and really pushing the limits and still competing for those that, you know, don't have the same lifestyle as you, but you know, you still have aspirations. You know, just because you had a great upbringing doesn't negate the fact that you can still have aspirations. And so I want to be, you know, definitely the example for people that, you know, still kind of had a lot of stuff, you know, growing up, but it's still a battle, you know. I want to be the example for those people, you know, and still for black people that may not have had that, you know. Just because we don't relate on certain things doesn't mean that I don't know the realities of being black. Like, we would still instill the values and integrity and honesty and all of these things that are still important. You know, you can have, you know, present people, but it's still, you know, putting those values. Both my parents are retired teachers, you know, so it's like there's a reason why, you know, I talk the way I talk. You know, I've been around teaching my whole life, you know, and you know, it's uh what's the word, inevitably fell upon me, you know, to convey words and to, you know, put things out in a way that people can receive it. So it's very, very vulnerable, you know, few moments, but um, you know, I told you, like, this is gonna be a space for people that want to really get to know me is gonna really get to know me. I'm not gonna be this closed thing. Things that are weighing on me, I'm just gonna say, you know. Obviously, like, not everything, but I just think authenticity and genuine connections always make the best of relationships, friendships, and you know, it separates the real from the fake. You know, so but I do think y'all, it's gonna, like I said, I wanted this to be quick. I didn't want this to be long at all. But tomorrow and Monday, I thought I was gonna probably stream Sunday and Monday, or at least Monday, but I probably won't. I'm probably gonna be taking clips from these last 3 streams and just, you know, put it on. But like I said, thank y'all. I want to say thank you to the 9 subscribers. Hopefully we can build on this, so that, you know, the next time we go on stream, it's a bigger subscriber count, so that we can just keep pushing the needle. So let's keep pushing the needle, and we're gonna be back. Hopefully we can get, there it is. Hopefully we can get to that increase. So thank y'all, and let's keep going.